Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. I should mention I've been so happy with all the wonderful guests that I've had the pleasure and the privilege of talking to. I started this podcast in May, I think toward the end of May. And I hope I've gotten a little bit more comfortable and a little bit better with the whole process. I know that I know some amazing people. I'm so proud to introduce you to them each week, and I will continue to do that in the new year. This is the last guest that I'm going to have this year in 2021 because next week is going to be, of course, Thanksgiving, and I want to do a little bit on gratitude. So, for those of you who are listening, check out on the podcast. You should be able to find it, but if not, look me up on Facebook and Funny Wine Girl Janine on Facebook. There is a way that you can actually leave me a recorded message. I would love to hear from you and hear what you are grateful for this year. Just a quick little, my kids, my family, whatever it is. I would love to be able to share that on my podcast, my edition for Thanksgiving next week. If not, please feel free to reach out to me on Facebook in a message that you just write if you're not comfortable giving an audio recording. Just keep that in mind. But this is going to be, like I said, the last of this year of 2021. And again, I'm so grateful for you listening and for all of the wonderful friends that I've had that I've been able to introduce you to, because I think they all have something great to share. And I hopefully you'll get to have some laughs and learn a little bit along the way. So this week, as I've been saying, I was saying in the beginning when I started this podcast, I was drinking wine when I was recording it. And of course, it is the evening. And I don't know if it was Mary, Ray Patch, or someone else who said, "You're drinking coffee at this hour." I forget who it was, but I still drink coffee at this hour. Sometimes I get indigestion, sometimes I don't. But for those of you who check this out on YouTube, of course, I always have to show you my mug, which is my Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl mug. And on the back, it says, "If it's morning, this must be coffee." So, of course, it's evening and I'm having coffee because I will tell you, I drank wine last night, a lovely Chenin Blanc from South Africa. A little too acidic, I'm finding out, for my issues with heartburn and GERD, but maybe my guest will be able to help talk me through that and make some suggestions for me so I'm not suffering as I drink my wine. Okay, so let me get to my guest because sometimes I get off track and I babble a little bit too much. So I like to give a little info or a little factoid about something to do with wine, usually that has to do with the topic at hand. So tonight I'm going to be talking to someone who's not just serving up healthy stuff, but she serves up humor as well. She does improv and she's a dietitian, and we're going to talk about ways to try to make the right choices as far as our eating habits over the next couple months with the holidays. But I was thinking, what can we talk about as far as wine? I was thinking, I know that spritzers are kind of a way, they might not be better in the sense that maybe they're not better calorie wise, but maybe they're better because they kind of cut down on alcohol a little bit, some, carbonated or sparkling water with some wine. And, I hate to say this, but it can help you get through the evening longer so that you can, instead of just drinking a full glass of wine, maybe you could just throw in some spritzer, a little bit of, seltzer, make you kind of like just not drink as much alcohol so quickly. I'm sure there are better, healthier choices that my guest might be able to tell us about, but just something to think about. I know alcohol can have a lot of calories during the holidays. I know myself, I tend to indulge a little too much, even when it's not the holidays. So, all right, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to my guest this evening. She is the clinical coordinator for the Dietetic Internship program at Marywood University here in Scranton, where I live and where I record. It is Micki, and of course, of the one thing I did not ask before I got on here was the proper way to say your Ostrowski. Is that
Orlowsky.
Orlowsky? I'm sorry. I had, what I know
No,
is, and I know an Ostrowski, and I screwed it up. So Orlowsky,
no, it's okay. I
Ostrowski.
curse I curse my parents all the time for giving me the name that they did because my first name, this is my nickname, so I curse them all the time. But yes, it's Orlowsky, like the car washers in this
Orlowski.
area, but not
Okay.
related.
Okay. All right. So now that I've botched that up, but Micki Orlowsky. So we're going to talk to her tonight. And I want to say I met Micki doing an improv jam at Scranton Improv, which is so much fun. If you haven't checked it out, look them up on Facebook. We were what jam as in we just very casual. We got to hang out and do some just fun improv games. She is delightful, full of energy, very bubbly. And so it's a pleasure to have you tonight, Micki. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Janine. I'm so excited to be here.
That's you are so bubbly, honestly. I remember when I met you at the jam and it was just fun. And I mean, it's fun to work with, a lot of people, but some people you just kind of have like, oh wow, they're just fun and easy to work with. And you were just so much fun and you had so much energy and enthusiasm. I really miss those jams. And I know they were doing them online. And I have to say I was lazy because I chose to sit on my couch instead. But I missed you were so much fun. Wasn't that a
Thank
great
you.
time doing that?
It was. Thank you. Yeah, I miss doing them too, especially in person. I did do a few of them, virtually over Zoom, and it's not the same. I mean, it's way more fun in person. So I'm excited to get back into it once we do. But yeah, I thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, it's just like it's such a joy when people like they want to do it, they're having fun. When you're having fun, I mean, my gosh, there's nothing better. Like you're just really it makes it so much fun to be in that moment together. And like you said, it is, the pandemic obviously has changed so much for so many of us and we had to go to Zoom. I've mentioned this before, Laugh to Live. I have my business, I do laughter yoga, and I haven't done an in-person laughter yoga session in probably going on 2 years. And I've done many on Facebook using Facebook Live, but it's not the same. And it's unfortunately, you don't have that energy that you normally have in person. So we both, I think, look forward to 2022, right? When we can
For
get back to having
sure.
fun. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
But
I'm so excited.
so I want to talk first, and then we'll go back to the comedy part. You've been doing improv, which is how I met you, but I want to talk a little bit about, so your day job, let's say you work, you're the clinical coordinator for the dietetic internship at Marywood. First, I want to talk a little bit, why don't you tell us a little bit about that? We'll give Marywood a plug. And then I want to really get into some maybe useful tips of how we can make healthier choices because I mean, I could tell you it's on my mind. I don't think lack of awareness is usually a problem. It's just the choices. Like I know I'm eating crap. I just I just need to stop doing it. But tell us a little bit about the program at Marywood and what you do there.
Sure. So Marywood has what we call an MSDI program. So it's a master's and a dietetic internship program combined. Um, Marywood's really well known for their nutrition program. They have an undergraduate program and it's been around since like 1915. So it's like a pretty old
Oh
program,
wow.
right? It started off as home economics because, women, they needed, some sort of job at one point and it started as home ec and just evolved to nutrition. So and that's where I did my undergrad and my graduate degree. So it does hold a special place in my heart. But um, it it's really cool to work there, and the program is really great. But what's awesome is so dietitians have to do an internship to become a dietitian. So dietetic students, I'm sorry, have to do an internship before they do take their test. We take like a board exam, just like nurses, just like doctors. Um, and then so we get to kind of mold the minds and help students find like their passions and what they're looking forward to doing. So I really love my job now. I'm very excited to be there. I keep saying very excited. Please slap me. Um, but
I do that
yeah,
too.
I'm like I need a new verb. I don't know,
You're
but yeah.
exuberant.
So there you go. Give me some synonyms. Where's the synonym like a thesaurus when you need it? But yeah, so that's the program. We take about 40 students a year, and it's a 2-year program. So at any time, I have about 80 students that are in the back of my head. My email inbox is a big old ditch that I'm just climbing out of all the time. So, but it's very rewarding just because I mean, I could talk about dietetics until, my ears bleed, but it's just like, well, your ears would bleed actually. But yeah, it's like, um, but yeah, I got into dietetics not even thinking I would be in this type of field. So, but it's very rewarding and happy to be there.
Well, and you do something really cool with the students, and this is a nice connection or crossover. We talked about the improv and humor and how we met. You do something with the students, which I absolutely love because one of my side gigs, and I don't know how many my listeners who know me know that I have been a standardized patient at the medical college for like 10 years, and I portray a patient, and that's how like a lot of people who watch Seinfeld will know the episode with Kramer when he had gonorrhea and or was it syphilis? I forget. I think it was gonorrhea, and then the jaundice issue with the liver and all that good stuff. But the students do learn by dealing with people who are portraying different scenarios, and also sometimes we're there just for them to have a body, so to speak, so they can learn, how to check the liver, how to check the abdomen, how to listen to the heart and all that. So you do something similar with your students, and I've had the pleasure of doing it for a couple of years. It was a blast. So we get characters where we portray and they get to try to counsel us. And I of course I love when we're told the characters that could be difficult, because sometimes I almost feel really bad. I'm like, oh my God, I was such a pain in the ass there. But they have to learn real situations where it's someone who's like, okay, listen, I know I'm not eating right, but I can't change anything in my life. And they have to kind of figure out, so how do I help this person if they're not really making it easy for me? So how did that come about, and how did your improv really kind of help with that?
Sure. So, in between years, like I said, it's a 2-year program. We do an orientation that's typically on campus. So, it's usually, a full week in between. And normally we'd bring the students on campus. I had just started at Marywood the first year it was on campus, and then the pandemic hit. And so I was trying to come up with ways to incorporate, you know, some real life experience without being, in real life together, having to do it virtually. So one of the things I thought of was, well, let's try and incorporate some what we call motivational interviewing or nutrition counseling. And how can we get them to at least practice that or get comfortable approaching patients that aren't, myself or my coworker. So I was, thinking about it and I was like, well, it would be really cool if I could get my improv people to help me with this because they're so funny and I think they'll bring lots of different things to it. And if I create some like baseline character type things and they counsel them, then it'll get that it'll bring humor, which will bring that barrier down where like they don't feel it like it has to be this formal, this is what you need to do, da 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 da. Like, no, you're having a conversation with an actual human being, and now you guys aren't always going to be, a difficult person or, a really excited person to change, or that's not typically your personality, or it could be, I don't know. But at the time, it just allows you to practice with that skill and how a conversation would actually go rather than just thinking it in your head. And it went over really well the first year, and so we decided to do it for a second year. And every time we do it, the students have said that that's their favorite part of orientation. So they love it. So we hope to keep doing that, and I hope to keep having my improv people come and join because it's just such a good time. And even the improv people have said, I love this. Like, this is so fun. Like, I get to be a jerk. I'm like, yeah, you do. Like, you could be like, I'm not doing anything. I don't care what you say. And you could just be a jerk to these poor students that are like, wait, what? What are you
Yeah, I hate
doing?
to say it, but that was one of my favorite characters. And I think it was like a man or something who was a truck driver on the road. And I was like, I was just such an idiot. I know sometimes they started laughing because some of my answers were ridiculous, but
Well,
that's why it's so much fun.
that's a treat for you guys. I put those characters in specifically. And the kicker is I don't share who's going to be difficult with the students. Like, I don't share that with them. So they're not picking based off of, if they're going to be difficult. They're basing it off of who they may think is easier to work with, when in reality it's going to be someone harder, which you don't know that going into real life. So,
Well,
yeah.
that's true. And I mean, not only is it fun, and you brought up something, of course, I love and I talk about in my business, like the use of humor. Usually, again, humor, as we know, can be tricky and everything. But when it works well, it helps relax people. It helps bond them in the situation. So they're, like you said, it's not so formal or stiff. They're having a good time, but they're also learning because, like you said, in life, they're not going to know how a person's going to behave, right? The first time meeting them. And, while not everyone is difficult or excited. Usually they're somewhere in the middle, I guess you could say, the average person. But it's good that they get these experiences, and like, and you could tell that they were trying to be thoughtful about their responses, but sometimes they're just like, geez, hit a wall here. What am I supposed to do with this person? So that's, I mean, I think it's great that you're doing it with them. And I think any kind of real world experience is just awesome for them to make them better at their jobs in the future.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's definitely, we've hit a home run with that. So we're gonna keep on trying to do it on some capacity. I think we also have like they call it a simulation lab at Marywood. So we're hopefully gonna try and do that where they have like the dummy patients but like you can still talk out of them. It's a whole thing. And I don't know if you're familiar, but maybe you are because
We
of
have
the
a
medical
couple at the
college.
medical college. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a dummy and like you could talk, like I could be behind a screen and like I could talk through them. So we're hoping to incorporate something with that where there's machines going in a hospital or like weird sounds or things like that. So we're excited to keep building on that. So
That's
but thank you
cool.
for
That's really
being
cool.
part of it. Because you've
Yeah,
been a part of it
it's so
twice
much
now.
fun. Yes. Yes, I looked forward to it. I really did. And it was really cool. And I love when the students, you could tell they're excited too and just happy to be part of it. And they appreciate that that you're doing it. And they were just great. It was just great to watch them think through it, and experience that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we do have good students too. So they're troopers for dealing with it too, I think.
So now, that's your professional, your day job. So let me ask you then, well, a couple of things. First, I want to ask, so your background is in nutrition and you're a dietitian. Is it, do you ever find it kind of difficult, like for yourself when you're making food choices? Because obviously, all of the facts. Do you ever get like tough on yourself, or is it ever, because I mean, obviously you're a human being, you're not a robot. So you're going to have days too where you want to, I imagine maybe you want to, eat the things where you're telling yourself, yeah, I know, but I don't care. What's that like for you personally?
Sure. So I don't know if this is going to be a good answer, but I'll be honest. Like I do struggle, um, with those kinds of things. And what I've come to realize as I've gotten older and more into the profession, there's more like non-diet dietitians that kind of more promote um, being healthy in other ways rather than like assigning a value to a food or like assigning like this is good versus bad. And so I've been trying to kind of explore on that a little bit more. And I mean, I don't like this whole guilt feeling that you have to have like after you eat something that is typically quote unquote bad. um
Hmm.
I don't want to restrict myself because a lot of times restricting then leads to actually binging or even like just indulging more than you probably would have anticipated. So I've taken this approach where if I feel like eating it and it's going to bring me joy or it's going to, I'm going to enjoy it or it's something social and I don't want to restrict myself in that way, then I'm not going to. Um, I think another thing that, in my case is I'm not your standard what you would consider what a normal dietitian looks like. I'm not, if you Google the word dietitian or, dietetics or something, it's usually like a skinny blonde white girl that comes up. And I, as a white woman, like, I mean, I'm half that, but what you would call a skinny or a thin person. Um, so coming to terms with that and just like, you know, realizing that like not all people who are healthy also, need to be thin. And that's something that I'm also coming to terms with because I'm relatively healthy, but there's just so many different factors that go into it. But I will say, you know, there are days that I'm like, "Oh, I probably shouldn't have ate all of the mac and cheese or all of the cookies or all of the wine," but at the time it served me and I was okay. There's times where I'm like, I probably should drink some water in between my glasses of wine or something, which we can talk about when with the holiday kind of stuff if you want. But it's just more about being mindful of the decisions that I'm making. I'm like, am I gonna feel like an awful person after I do this? Like, then maybe I shouldn't do it. Am I gonna feel like I failed myself after I do this? Or like, and not necessarily like eating the bad things, quote unquote, but just, eating what's going to serve me. And I'm not, by no means am I going to, sit and, if someone offers me cake or pie, I'm not gonna be like, no, not today. Like, no, I'm gonna eat the damn cake and pie. Like, there's definitely, I'm a sweet tooth girl. Like, I need my sweets. So
I'm with you. Yes. Had a Pop-Tart for breakfast. That's who you're talking to.
yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I think we get into this, this mindset that like we can't have a Pop-Tart for breakfast. Well, wasn't that the whole thing about being an adult? Like, we could eat ice cream for dinner and Pop-Tart for breakfast, and that was going to be great. Like, that's the adult life I want to lead, is like, I'm going to eat whatever the hell I want when I want to, and nobody's going to stop me. And does that mean like I'm always going to eat ice cream for dinner every day? Absolutely not. I'm never going to eat ice cream for dinner every day. But I do enjoy a vegetable, and I know there are people who don't enjoy vegetables, but I just think it's about making those choices. Like, am I going to feel bad about this? No, I wanted ice cream for dinner. I'm going to have ice cream for dinner. If I'm going to have a Pop-Tart for breakfast, I'm going to have a Pop-Tart for breakfast. Like, it is what it is. Or sometimes that's the only option, and it's better than no food, right? Like, if you didn't eat the Pop-Tart in the morning, you'd probably be miserable. Like, you'd be like, oh God, I'm so hungry. When's lunch? Like, you ate the Pop-Tart, like, it's fine. You're good. So
Yes.
I think we have to stop like stigmatizing that like the food is the issue, where it's more like what your emotions are when you're eating the food. I think that's the thing.
Yeah, and that's that made me think of, I don't know if you ever heard of the book When Food is Love.
No,
I
I
forget
haven't.
the name of, I think her name, actually, I think her name was Janine as well, but a friend of mine introduced me to it about 20 some years ago. And I'm, I'm not saying, I'm a great eater. I've never had a food problem per se, like, but it was still a very interesting book because it was that whole thing about the emotions behind eating, and how much that's so tied into why we eat, when we're depressed or when we're not feeling loved or when we're, excited. I mean, everybody's probably different, but I know myself, I kind of like, it's kind of like that stereotype, when a girl's broken up with sitting there with the ice cream or the wine or whatever. But, it's a stereotype, but at the same time, it is kind of like, I know myself, food for me does provide me with comfort. And, now with it getting dark out earlier, I struggle because like the other day I was doing something and I was working on a project and I looked at the clock on the microwave and it was 6:30 and I'm like, oh geez, you have to be kidding me. I thought it was like 10 o'clock. It's so, and I'm in my pajama bottoms early and it's like, yeah, food does bring me comfort and a glass of wine. But I love what you said about you have to, like basically let yourself make those decisions and then not beat yourself up over it because I think we get into trouble there, like you said about it being bad or whatever. We can't abuse ourselves afterwards and like, oh, I'm terrible because I did this because that's not healthy either, right?
No, that's all mental. I mean, I just think assigning that value to the food, whether you're supposed to be good or bad, that assigns you an emotion that you're supposed to feel afterwards. Because when you're good, like, you're good, you're supposed to feel awesome afterwards and healthy. And why feel that way after eating a salad versus a hamburger? They both provide nutrients, like they both provide something. So why do we have to assign that value? And the same thing with with a donut or like cake or whatever. Like, it tasted good, and they have nutrients, like whether we want to believe it or not, like we still need those nutrients. So in some capacity, like, it's providing something for you. And are you going to eat the whole cake? Hopefully not. You can hopefully trust yourself to figure out how much you should have. And hopefully people can explore that a little bit more, kind of trusting yourself and what we call intuitive eating, and just trusting, you can say, okay, I've had enough, this is all I need, and then move on, rather than eating a whole entire cake and being like, and then you feel guilty because you ate the whole cake. Well, that probably wasn't the smartest decision. But just enjoying that one normal sized piece of cake is not going to kill you by any means.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a great time. This is a great time to transition into, I had said to you before, I want to talk a little bit about, we've got Thanksgiving next week, which of course it's so interesting that, I mean, so much we could have a separate conversation on the culture and the expectations and the media. And it's geared up to be like, you're going to eat, you're going to drink. I mean, it's
Sure.
geared up, and we don't really talk a lot about the gratitude, unfortunately, but we talk about the food and everything. And it is good. But we have that, and then there's Christmas, and then New Year's, and we do tend to, I know I'll speak for myself and say I do tend to eat more. Now, granted, with the
Oh
pandemic,
yeah.
we haven't had as many in-person events. That is true, but we're slowly getting back out there. And I mean, whether it's a holiday party or a mixer, like you're around food that maybe you wouldn't be otherwise with all these parties and things. And so I don't want to say to you like, oh, okay, it's not realistic to think, okay, so we're not going to eat this. Of course, we're going to have pie, right? Of course, we're going to have, yams, and we're going to have some bread, and we're going to have gravy and all that. So, what are some things that you could recommend as far as what's the approach to take so that we don't kind of go overboard? And then also the second part of that about the alcohol too, because I mean, we do, a lot of us who do drink, not everybody drinks, I'm not saying that, but for those of us who do, I've been on the end of way too many glasses of wine around the Thanksgiving Day table, and that usually leads to bad conversations too. But
Yeah, for sure. So there's actually a lot of different ways to do this where it's not like counting the calories or counting like the like every pea that you put on your plate. Like you don't have to do it that way. I think one way is, first, speaking of peas, is to always kind of gravitate more towards your fruits and vegetables if you can. And a lot of times people don't even bring those to like your holiday potlucks or anything. So that's one way. Like if you want, you could bring your fruit tray or like a vegetable tray. And a lot of times people go for those things because there is so much richness around that people want like that break in between. So people tend to actually go for those things, aside from the richness. Or just bringing like some sort of vegetable side dish, like Brussels sprouts is a big one right now, or like broccoli or something like that, where at least you're kind of forced to put it on your plate. And eating those first actually will start filling you up and giving you that sense of satiety before you start eating your turkey or your ham or your potatoes or whatever else. So kind of gravitating to those first. A lot of times people start with like a salad in the beginning of a meal. That's a way to kind of do that if you want to just make sure that you're evening everything out. Now, not to say you're not going to load up on the potatoes and the turkey and the gravy and all that stuff, because you are. But then also when you're going down the buffet line, think about, do I really want this, or is it just there? Because I know me, this is just a prime example. For the longest time, I don't know who told my mother this, but she thought I loved candied sweet potatoes, and I hate them. I can't stand them. And I think I said I liked them once because I felt like obligation, like, oh yeah, these taste good. Like, because my grandma made them out of like, whatever. And I was like, oh, it just comes out of a can. I don't want that. I want all the other good stuff. So for the longest time, I would take them out of obligation because I had to, because they were there. And finally I said, I was like, does nobody else eat these except for me? Because nobody else had them on their plate. And my mom was like, well, no, like we thought you loved them, so we just buy them for you every year. I'm like, I hate these damn things. Like, get them away from me. And then by then, nobody else had potatoes, the yams or whatever, ever again. It never came up on the table again. But like, it was me really coming to the decision: am I taking this out of obligation because it's there, or am I actually going to enjoy this? Because what I enjoy most is the stuffing and the turkey and I do enjoy the vegetables. I'm not going to lie. I'm a typical dietitian when it comes to that. Like I do like my vegetables. So another thing like I don't like to just fill up on plain old bread. And I know some people love just plain old bread. So
I
I
do.
always, yeah. So you're going to take that over the vegetable. Totally fine. Me, I'm not going to take the piece of bread because I want to fill up on the stuffing or whatever. Like, just think about that when you're going down the line, and also think about like reasonably, what can you eat at this time, and give yourself some time in between, and then you can always go back if you're still hungry, right? Like it's not going away. And we all have microwaves now. You could heat it up if you don't like cold leftovers, which if you don't like cold leftovers, who are you? Like, get out of here. But like, you can go back and have more. So like if you take like a reasonable amount, like your plate doesn't have to be stuffed to the brims, falling all over the place. Like 2 plates. Like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to feel obligated to do that either. So then just taking like a reasonable amount, sitting there maybe, 20 minutes, kind of just hanging out, like have your conversation, sip on your wine, sip on your, your water, whatever you're drinking that day, and then go back if you're still hungry. Chances are you're probably not going to be hungry. And sometimes you are, and that's totally fine too. Like, you don't have to feel that guilt to go back up either. Like, that's fine. You're hungry, you need more food. Totally fine. Another thing that you can do is just, be mindful in between those bites of food. I know some of us, like, we're in a rush. We have places to be. We have to move from parents' house to in-laws to cousin to the second grandmother that you didn't know you had, like, whatever. Like, you have to keep moving to different houses. So we shovel all this food in and then, like, okay, bye, see ya. That's not, maybe just, if you can, take a seat, relax, and just savor the food that you have in front of you. Have a sip of water in between. Talk to your relatives, talk to your great aunt Esther that you only see once a year or whatever. Like, take that time to just sit. And it's funny, and I'm kind of getting off topic here, but like, I noticed when I'm at a dinner with a friend, I get fuller quicker than if I'm just sitting at home eating, because I'm taking the time to talk in between the bites I'm eating. And you realize that you're not as hungry as you thought you were. Whereas if you're just sitting by yourself in front of your TV, you don't have anybody to kind of stop you and ask you a question, or so you're just shoveling food in. Well, if you take that time, you're going to be eating less at the same time. So I really encourage, when I talk to people, I encourage, like, especially family and friends, I'm like, just slow down, like, just slow down and enjoy it. Because, some people only get this meal only once a year. If you only make turkey dinner once a year, like, you're really going to get it. So take the time to enjoy it. You went through all that work. I always joke, you spend 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours on the meal, and it's gone and done in 15 minutes. Why rush it? Like, just take the time and relax and enjoy it. I could keep going on if you want me to. I will ramble.
Well, so 2 things. I love that you said your great aunt Esther, because Esther was my grandmother's name, God rest her soul. But the other thing that I think is so important, and it's not just at the holidays, you said about with your mom with those candied yams and the obligation. I think there's probably a lot of that, don't you think, where people, I don't know about, I know my one aunt, and I love her. She didn't mean anything by it, but it's always like, oh, is that all you're taking? Take more, or take seconds. That happens in a lot of households because, again, it's that, I think of that book, Food is Love. They love you and they prepared this food. So it's a sign of love, and they want you to show your love in a way by accepting the food and eating it. But we also have to set, I would say, our own boundaries, right? You could say, listen, you know what? I don't eat that anymore. Or, oh, let me take it, but I'm only taking 2 spoonfuls, because that sense of obligation, I think sometimes that might get us into trouble. Don't you think?
Right. I mean, I could speak from personal experience on this one too. Like, I always get into arguments with my family because I typically, my parents are divorced, so I'm typically always with my dad in the morning and then my mom in the afternoon. And my dad's side of the family is always like, why do you have so little on your plate? I'm like, because I have to eat a whole second meal that I'm actually looking forward to. And I want to enjoy both. So I'm only taking a little bit and just trying a little bit and then going back and eating more later on. This might be your only meal of the day, but I have to eat twice, and I have to eat, similar foods. So I don't want to overstuff myself and then not be able to eat later on. And some people can have so much food at one time, and I wish I was one of those people, but I can't. But just from personal experience, I have those arguments all the time. They're like, well, eat more, take more. Do you want leftovers? Do you need them to take home? I'm like, no, I have all of this. We're at the second location I'm going. It's fine. Like, we're good. So yeah, it's just like you said, like, just say, like, I have to go someplace else and eat later. Or, this food is delicious, but I just want to, enjoy a little bit right now. You can still be nice about it. You don't have to be like, no, I don't want any of this. Bye. Like, I just came to say bye and I'm going to leave. Like, you could still, like, be, nice about it and, still try it and, enjoy the food that they prepared.
Yeah,
For
exactly.
you.
Just like anything else, there's a way to do it, right? I mean, and being honest, right? "Oh, I have 2 meals to go to today. So I love this, but I have to set some limits. So I'm just gonna have a little bit." And yeah, like you said, you don't have to be like, "I'm out of here. Bye."
Yeah.
Flip up the
Like,
table.
yeah, like, just clear this all out. I don't want any of it. Bye.
Take this
You don't have
away,
to.
please. This is
Yes.
disgusting.
You
Um
spent 6 hours on this? No, thanks.
Yeah.
Trash.
Yes, we're not encouraging you to be impolite. Of course not. Be polite, but no, do what the make the choices that are right for you. So
I
I
mean, if
want to
worse
ask you.
comes to
Go ahead. I'm
I was
sorry.
gonna
No,
say,
go
worst
ahead.
comes to worst, feed it to the dog under the table, whatever you gotta do.
Hey, well, and trust me, that's a good option, right? You could do
Yeah,
that.
just
Or like when I
slowly
was a
refeed the
kid,
table.
I would put my peas inside my napkin and fold them over so I didn't like to eat them.
I
That's
love
not the
that.
best. Or I think of Seinfeld, my favorite show, when Jerry was putting the mutton in the napkins and then putting it in his pocket of his jacket. So there are
Yeah,
ways to distribute the food.
there
Let
is.
me ask you about. Let's get talk a little bit about the alcohol consumption, and I don't want to seem like I'm obsessed with that, but I mean, in all truthfulness, as someone who does drink wine, and I'm serious when I say over the years we've polished, my family and I, we've polished some, my cousins and I have polished a number of bottles of wine, and I, they say, of course, don't talk about politics and religion and all those sorts of things. And we've done that. And I've actually walked out of a room in tears. Of course, that's because I was emotional because I had too much drinking, too many wine glasses. But it can be difficult if you're spending, let's say, several hours, right? And you're in one place and you're hanging out, you're having conversation. But if you do like wine, all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is okay. I had another glass. Are there healthier choices like certain wines versus other ones that would be less healthy? What would you recommend as far as just trying to behave in that? Not, of course, not saying don't have it, but trying to make choices so that you don't overindulge or maybe get too many calories or too much sugar from the wine.
Right, yeah, I think, and I'm sorry, I'm a bad dietitian, I don't know the exact calories off of each, wine, I don't know which is which and which
Shame
ones
on
aren't.
you.
I know, I'm so bad, I wish I had all that memory recall, but I don't. Um, I'm in addition to all the other things I have to know, I don't know that off the top of my head. But I will say, I mean, um there's a couple ways you can approach this. So obviously, like your sweeter beverages are typically going to have more calories. So your sweeter wines, which are my go-to, typically will have more sugar in them. So they'll they'll be easier to drink typically, and they probably have more calories in them. Same thing with liquor, depending on your mixer. Um, i- if you're drinking, whiskey or something and you're putting like juice on it or soda or something like that, that's obviously going to have more calories than if you're going to have like a vodka soda or like a gin and tonic or something. um and beer is pretty standard, depending on the type of beer, like some heavier beers versus light beers, but um they all are going to have different calories, and if that's really something that's you want to look at, you can obviously look up the nutritional facts on that. But my two main things that I try to do is, first, I'm with you on that. I've gone to family gatherings and I'm like, oh, I'll bring a bottle of wine for everybody, and then suddenly I'm the only one drinking that wine bottle and it's gone. And it's not like a tiny water wine bottle; it's a big one. Um, so one thing I try to do is I try to at least have like a certain amount of water in between the amount of alcohol that I'm drinking, or for every glass of wine I have, I try to have at least like 4 ounces of water. Um, just so I can kind of keep that hydration going, because hangovers suck. So you want to keep hydrated, and it'll prevent you from just completely drinking all of your calories through the alcohol. Um, what I will say is, I know that's not always the cool thing to do, is to drink water. But I'll be honest, like, if people don't typically care. Like, if you're drinking, it's fine. If you're not, no big deal. Nobody really gives a care as to what you're drinking, what you're not drinking. Um, The other thing I try to do when I'm drinking is at least snack on something. And typically I would rather snack on something that's more like has a fat and a protein component to it. So like a cheese or like a dip or something that's gonna kind of almost like coat your stomach, where it's not just gonna, I'm making it into scientific facts about all this, but like if you're just drinking alcohol on an empty stomach, it's going to go through your bloodstream way quicker than it is with food. So if you're having like just small bites of food in between, and I know that's what you would think the opposite of what I would say, but the truth is if you're eating more in between, you can actually technically you could consume more alcohol and not feel the effects of it, but it also will slow you down a little bit.
Hmm.
So I just try and like space it out. So if I have a glass of wine, have like a couple cheese and crackers or something, because that's always out on the table, right? Everybody brings cheese and crackers, or have a
Yes.
little leftover stuffing or something like that. And then, have another glass and then go back to your water and like just be mindful of alternating those things. And I guarantee you, A, you won't have a hangover, and B, you'll feel a lot better about yourself because that bottle of wine probably won't be as empty as quickly as you would think it would be.
Yeah, yeah. Although that's good. I eat my cheese and cracker as I'm drinking the wine at the exact same time. So
And that's fine too. Whatever works. Like you said, you don't want to like, all right, chug the cheese and cracker, chug the, like you don't have to do that, but you can eat at the same time too. But just kind of being mindful of all of that going together. Like at my table, like I'll usually have a water bottle or like a glass of water and my wine. So like it's there, so I can't get rid of it, and I have to drink that before I go on to the next glass of wine or something. Like a little competition with myself, just so I know to not drink the whole bottle of wine.
yeah. And water, like that's key. Like you said, you want to stay hydrated. I used to say, I'm like a camel. I drink water. Like I'll bring water wherever I go. And a lot of times, even when I just go out to a couple stores to do errands or shop, I throw a bottle of water in my purse because I don't know if I just get thirsty more than the average person, but I think it's just good to have because water is so important for so many things.
Oh,
So yeah, that's great advice. Anything else before, and then I just want to transition and talk to you a little bit about before we wrap up, just a little bit about your future plans with comedy and how and what you're looking forward to there. Anything else that you'd like to share as far as just anything that you didn't get to say that you wanted to share from a nutritional standpoint or eating standpoint as far as healthy habits go?
sure. I mean, I'll just hammer home the fact that like you shouldn't have to feel guilty around this time of year. Everybody goes through the same stuff, and you know the numbers on the scale or the way your pants fit, it really doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Like it really doesn't. It doesn't affect you as much as you think you would. I would just be kind with yourself and realize that everybody's doing this, everybody's partying, everybody's going to different, um, different events and things like that where there's food and alcohol, and it's okay. Like you're allowed to enjoy that time because it only happens once a year, and it's not like you do this every day of your life, 365, 24 hours a day. You're not doing that. So just really wanted to hammer home that like just be gentle to yourself and enjoy the holidays and just be present.
Yeah. And that's great advice too. Just and like you said even before, just to remind people like slow down, right? So when you are there, like you said, don't be just gobbling the food and like, okay, I have to get to the next house. That will help you digest your food, but also like you said, be in the moment so that you're being in the moment, not just with your food, but with the people that maybe you don't see a lot of. So enjoy that time.
Yeah,
So you, like I said, we met at improv, and you got to do, I think you did some stand up too when you were on Zoom. Didn't you try you did a monologue as well, didn't you? Was it I
I,
think last year maybe?
I did. Yeah. So Mary's been bugging me, Mary Raypatch, your previous guest on a couple podcasts ago. She was kind of bugging me to do some stand up. So I've only done it virtually. The first one I did, it was kind of more like an interviewee situation where Mary kind of prompted me. Um, and then the second one was a full-on monologue, and I enjoyed both of them and I really enjoyed writing it, so I'm hoping to do more. I'll This will be my accountability check. Like later on I'll be like, oh, I put it out there in the universe, it's there, I got to do it now. So I'm hoping to do more and explore it. I do love improv because you don't have to pre-plan, which is nice.
Yeah, that is true.
Whereas
So
stand-up comedy is different.
yes, it is. It's definitely different, but both rewarding in different ways. And especially
Yeah,
when you get the laughs, which is a total payoff. Let me ask
it
you, when
is.
you did write your monologue, where, because I know for most people, we draw from our own lives, and that's the thing. Where did you get your sources of humor for what you wrote?
Sure. So a lot of it was experience. I think the first one I kind of made up some characters where and some scenario, not made up, but like made up some characters and scenarios of what was funny to me at the time based off an experience I had had. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then the second one, I took more inspiration from the news. I'll be honest. I think that one was mm, a little more like newsy, like political type stuff, which we don't have to get into right now. But it was just stuff that I got angry about. Like I was annoyed about it, but I was like, this
Mm-hmm.
like, and everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, I love when you rant about things because you just like it's all out on the table." I'm like, okay, well, that's good to know. Um, but yeah, so I typically get it from real life situations. I do find just some humor in my job and just my life in general and things that we go through and just again kind of going back to what we talked about being present. I've now learned to like take in more things because then I'm able to retain that, and I'm sure you know this because you're a wonderful stand-up comedian, that like just
Oh, thank you.
taking taking all that and just keeping it in the back burner, and you're like, okay, I got to save this because this is funny and now I can write about it and talk about it and make it funny. um or sometimes funny things just happen. So yeah, that's kind of where it all comes from. A lot of times I need to be prompted though, because I'm like, I don't know, I have a boring life, I don't do anything. But in reality I'm
Well,
like, oh no, about 6 funny things happened to me today, I should probably write that down.
Well, and I want to repeat what you kind of said there with about being in the moment. That is so important. I think not just for comedians, but anyone. Well, I think it's important for everybody in life because we can learn a lot about ourselves and situations and other people, but especially artistic people. David Sedaris does a master class, and one of the points he made was about being observant and just pay attention to what's in front of you, what's around you. And I'm always amazed, not that I'm trying to be judgmental at this point, although between you and I do that a lot. But I'm just saying, I'm surprised sometimes how people. I guess it's because they're so routine in their daily routine that they don't notice stuff. It'll be like, oh, hey, did you see the such and such on that street? What? No. I think sometimes people get blinders on and they don't see. And when you stop, even if you take 15 minutes on your lunch break, if you can, of course, and you sit on a public bench and you watch, I mean, or in a coffee shop, and it doesn't even have to be people watching, although I think that's great, but just keeping your eyes open to life. Like you said, now you say, oh, I had six things that were funny. When you pay attention to something that someone said or the way they said it or your interaction and how maybe you wanted to scream and you're trying to like maintain your composure and professionalism or whatever. When we start keying into that stuff, that is gold, really.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like it's so funny that I think the best comedians are the ones that don't say anything and they only let out those like little zingers like in conversation. They're always listening and they're always taking in what's going on around them. I think those are the best kind of comedians. They don't have to like assert themselves into the conversation to be funny. Like they're like, no, no, I'm going to take all this in and save it for material and then get up and perform it in front of other people. I think those are the best types of comedians because they don't have to like be anything other than themselves, but then they could take it all back and just listen and interpret and create afterwards. So it's interesting how I never knew anything about writing comedy before I joined improv, Scranton Improv and comedy, and I've learned so much from the process of it, and like just again I think it just made me like almost like a better listener, a better observer, a better a better human, just kind of being able to look at everything differently than I used to because we are always in our head. We're always like, okay, I have this and this and this to do today, and all these things have to be done, and oh God, what do I have to do tomorrow? Da, da, da. Like, shut that off and just look. And it's it's so incredible to see like all the things that go on around your whole daily life.
Yeah, yeah. And to we'll have to try sometime. Maybe we could do a rant together because I have not unleashed that on an audience yet because I'm afraid people would probably just sit there and go, "Oh, that's a lot." That's
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah.
Because I rant by myself, like you said about the news that you did your comedy there. I just get it out when I'm watching it by, and I live by myself, so I'm just yelling at the TV screen like a 90-year-old person or something. Not that all
We
90-year-olds do that, but
We can rant anytime, Janine. I'm more than happy to rant with you as long as you don't judge me, and I won't judge you for what you say. But also in that case though, I will say, some things that I initially like created from my rant, I said some things and I was like, I'm like not the one that I put out there, but in the initial drafts, I was like, oh, I could change this and level it up a little bit and make it more funny or just more appropriate or whatever the case may be. So like that first initial rant is probably not what I want to go with, but at least the topics are there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I mean, I won't go off this because I know it's probably an unpopular. I mean, we are in a time where we have to watch what we say, and I think to some degree I totally get that. But there's a difference between being like an outright racist or sexist or hateful person
Right,
and just making someone uncomfortable. I think we need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's okay.
right,
So
right,
I
right.
mean, I mean, we could pretend. I think we're being hypocrites when it's like, oh, I would never. I don't have those thoughts. We do, and like
Totally.
you said, you don't go with the first rant. I say some things in my household that are completely inappropriate because I'm saying them
Oh,
to
for sure,
me. Maybe
for
Big
sure.
Brother, so maybe the government's tracking it, although I don't think I'm that interesting that they would be listening to me. But and then you said you take the time and you fine tune it, and you get
Right,
it prepared for an audience's ears, so to speak.
right.
But I don't know. Wait till you do it a couple more times, and you'll get the fun things where people come up to you and give you material. They'll want to give you material.
Oh, I know. I swear people do that now. Like they tell me stories. I'm like, is this a secret sign you want me to use this? I don't know. Is this a gift that you're giving me? I will take this over a Target gift card any day. Like just give me your material. Thank you so much.
Well, I think again, now that like you said, you're in tune and you're paying attention, you will find, I'm sure, every day that you will see tons of things that you could and want to write about when you sit down and get back to that. So that is something that you will do in 2022. We're going to hold you accountable for that.
Yeah.
And getting back to performing improv and having fun, hopefully in person, somewhat soon in the new year, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I really want to absolutely get back in improv, and I might need some coaxing to get me to do some stand up, especially in a live format. But um, I'm excited. I really enjoyed the process when we did it over the pandemic. So I hope to do it more. And I have you and a few other people to turn to, I'm sure. So you can help me out, right?
Absolutely. Yes. In fact, we'll see. A couple weeks and things might, be confirmed. But in January, I might have an opportunity for you to try out a couple minutes
Ooh,
in person. So I will be
what?
coming to you to see if you want to try something out because it will be fun.
Oh,
It's always
sure.
great to put it out there, and try it and the feelings when it goes well, it's just beyond exhilarating. So I know that'll
Yeah,
be fun.
that
All
laughter,
right.
man, it gives you a boost. I'll tell you that.
It so does, and I miss years ago, I performed improv, through the years, like 25 years ago, and then I took a break, and then I did it, and then I took a break, and I went to stand up, and then with Scranton Improv, I had the opportunity to go back and play a couple sessions with you guys, and I miss it because it's different. Like you said, for the stand up you're planning. My stand up, obviously your stand up you plan it, it's so much more personal. I'm talking about my aging hormones and how they're taking over my body, and I'm just like, it's real and but there's some beauty in the vulnerability of it. But with improv, it's so energetic because you're creating something in the moment. And I love that whole feeling where I'm someone who's in my head a lot, and I'm sure women tend to do this a lot. We're in our heads and we overthink and we sometimes make things worse than they are. But when you're doing something like improv, you can't be anywhere else but in that moment. And it's
Yep.
honestly beautiful because you are so in it and it's just a nice feeling.
Yep, exactly. I totally agree. And that's the other reason why I said like I think comedy just made me a better human being in general because now I actually have to listen to what people are saying rather than going on what's going on in my head, and improv has definitely helped me with that for sure. So Yeah, I honestly, like, I recommend all my friends. I'm like, if you get a chance, or like just come join me and like hop on this train with me because it's so fun. And I think our group, I mean, Scranton Improv and Comedy, like I think the group of people that are belong so far, and hopefully more people kind of join in, and or at least just come along for the ride. We're very welcoming, and very open to new people, and just I just appreciate all of that. And so yeah, I love it. I can't
Great.
say enough good
Well,
things.
so check out everybody, anyone who's interested, and don't be afraid if you've never performed, just come and have fun. Scranton Improv on Facebook, and see what's coming up. I know they've got a lot of things that they're working on for 2022, and hopefully, I think some will definitely slowly be getting back in person, which will be fun. And until that point, I know they also do some online stuff. So check that out. And I want to thank you so much, Micki, for joining me tonight. And I love what your message is, because we want to be kind to ourselves. We're coming up on Thanksgiving. Be grateful for what we have, but also be kind to yourself. Don't put your expectations too high. Just know that, enjoy what you enjoy, and don't be hard on yourself. And I want to thank you again for your time. I want to thank you for what you're doing and your whole attitude and approach and your positivity. I think it's great. It's infectious.
Aw, thanks, Janine. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, and thank you for thinking of me. I appreciate it so much. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Well, you've listened to, or if you're still there, hello. You've listened to another episode of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl, and I am Funny Wine Girl, Janine Luby. And I want to give another quick request. If you do want to share anything that you're thankful for this year, please check out on, I'm on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, but reach out to me, Funny Wine Girl Janine on Facebook. And if you can find it, I will do another post where you can actually send in an audio message, just saying and sharing with other people what you're grateful for at this time of year. I know I will be sharing that next week, special edition for Thanksgiving next Wednesday. And again, I'm grateful for one thing, for having you guys who are listening. You're helping me do something that I'm really excited about. And I love that you guys are getting to know all the wonderful people that I know and listening to what they have to say. And hopefully you've been informed and entertained at the same time. So enjoy and uncork something beautiful, and be kind to yourself.